Yo, what's going on guys? I'm here with another video. This one is going to be about the best 5 current mid laners to play in solo queue. This will be based on like win rates, mechanic like requirements, so how difficult they are or how good they are. Just overall how good they are in the meta. I will be going over the champions, like their runes, their builds, what their strength is, why they are so good in solo queue right now, and how you should be playing them. If you do enjoy the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, it does really help me out. So yeah, let's start with the first champion. The first champion on the list will be Twisted Fate. If you're not aware, they kind of just reworked him, like a little mini rework to make him more viable as like an AD champion, which is really fun to play. He's still flexible, you can play him AP or AD. Twisted Fate is actually one of the highest win rate AD carries and mid laners, so you can play him in either role. You can probably even play him top if you really wanted to. Most people that play TF take Ghost and go with Fleet Footwork as a rune, like Fleet Footwork, Overheal, Alacrity for more attack speed, Cut Down, and then you can go either Resolve as a secondary to Inspiration to get some more sustain with like Cookies, or you can just go Sorcery to go Nimbus Cloak with Ghost and Celerity for the movement speed boost. You can take TP on TF, but I would just recommend taking Ghost. With the AB build, you're kind of just kiting around, so the Ghost is just really nice. It also helps run people down when you are trying to like gold card stun them. TF is just a great carry overall. His wave clear is decent, especially when you go into the static shift build. And speaking of the build, I think the most common build right now is static into rapid fire, into like a Kraken. There are a few variations of the build. You can also just go like Kraken into Terminus, or Kraken into Terminus into Rageblade, or Shiv into Stormrazor with rapid fire cannon in there. Like you can go for like an Infinity Edge, you can go for Lord Dominik's, you can go for a Blade of the Rune King if there's like a Scion or a Cho'Gath. There's a lot of build options you can do, but I'm not really going to be mentioning the AP build that much because I feel like the AD build is just strictly better now that they changed his AD ratios on the abilities. TF is just a really nice carry because when you're playing ranked, there's one thing that we all have in common, and it's that you lose a lot of games because your teammates aren't doing well. Or maybe you aren't doing well, but it's often that your teammates aren't doing well. So with TF you can kind of negate that a little bit by just ulting the side lanes, which is massive, like being able to just walk down slightly and just TP behind the bot lane, or TP to the jungler, TP to the top lane, help like a losing lane, or to get like a big shutdown, or to even just get more laners ahead. That's like a massive swing in the game that you can just do by simply pressing your ult. Another nice thing about TF is that you can punish people for like overextending. So let's say there's someone splitting in the side lanes, and he's like, oh, let me shove this wave real quick, and there's no one really around him. It's really easy to punish that split pusher as TF, because you can just be somewhere near him on the map and just press R, and then it's usually a free kill, especially with the AD build. It's rare that you lose a 1v1 once you have like Kraken plus whatever. If they try to run, you just Ghost and you have a rapid fire for increased range for your gold card. And even just when you're like hovering a team fight with rapid fire cannon and gold cards, it's really easy to get like a pick right before like an objective when you are like hovering the other team, or just like if you're in a standoff, you can walk up for gold cards. Maybe you hit a gold card and your team can like follow up with a stun on that and you can kill that guy. Maybe someone engaged on your team and you're just in the back throwing gold cards for CC while also just obliterating tanks with the Kraken or Borg or whatever build you went for. But yeah, Twisted Fate overall is just a really solid carry right now. He's good at roaming, he's good at wave clearing, he's good at 1v1ing, he's good at taking turrets, he's good at taking objectives. And with Fleet Footwork Overheal combo, you are actually not that weak, you're like pretty tanky. And the laning phase isn't as rough, because even if you're versus a poke mage, you can still just constantly be healing up with Fleet Footwork. But like I said, TF is just great at ulting the side lanes, ulting to the junglers, ulting the top lane, ulting the bot lane. That's why static shift is so good on him, because you can just static shift your wave, clear it really fast, and then just look to ult and roam and help your team not lose as hard or help them win even more pretty much. I would definitely recommend adding this champion to your champ pool mid lane. On the 4th spot I put Sylas. I think Sylas is a really solid carry as well. I'm gonna start off with the runes and then explain why he's good. The runes are pretty flexible. Again, I would recommend going First Strike. First Strike is pretty solid on him. You can just aggressively EW in the First Strike proc and then you hit the rest of your stuff. You can also proc it with long range Qs. You could also go Electrocute for just Burst or Dark Harvest, but the most standard page is probably just like First Strike, either like Resolve or Sorcery second. I like going Sorcery with just Mana Flow Banded Scores for the extra early game and poke, Cookies for sustain, and yeah, for the build, he is pretty flexible as well. you can go like pro to build Lichbane, like a more like assassin type build, or you can go with the Rod of Ages like early game to scale better into late game, have more mana to work with. The first build is more like full assassin, while I think the second one is more like extended fights. I do like the Rod of Ages build more. I feel like this does pretty well overall. You just go Rod of Ages into Lichbane, into either an Hourglass or a Death Cap for more damage, into like a Void Staff. As for summoners, you always take Flash on him. You can take Ignite if you really want to play aggro, but again, I would recommend just going TP. TP is just too good, but both are pretty viable. The reason why I think Sylas is pretty good is that because his, first of all, his win rate is decent. A big thing you need to know about Sylas is his ultimate. If you aren't aware, his ultimate is pretty much stealing other people's ultimates. So you have to keep that in mind when you are picking him, like, is this a good Sylas pick? Can I steal decent ults here this game? Because let's say you're laning into a Karma, which I've noticed is really, really bad. Karma ult does like no damage. I tried playing into Karma and I RQ'd with the Karma Q, and it legit did like 80 damage. It was really, really bad. But I lane into Lysandra and I was like, holy, I just stole a Lysandra ult and just got a free kill by just walking bot lane with it. So there's a huge difference when looking at the enemy comp, whether or not you should pick Sylas or not. But there's a lot of really, really good matchups. There's a lot of good ults you can steal, even not from your own lane. Let's say there's a top lane cannon on the enemy team. Stealing a cannon ult is really, really good. Like, that is really nice for you to have on your own team. His laning phase is also just pretty decent. Worst case scenario, you just long range Q and like farm if you really can't. But he's pretty decent in lane. You can play it pretty aggro by just Eing forward and hard engaging. You have a lot of burst damage with W and Q. If you don't know how Sylas works, his W will heal him when you're low health, so don't preemptively Q. Save it if you're in an all-in to get the healing though. Like, keep an eye out for that so you don't lose out on it, because it might actually lose you the 1v1. There's so many good ults in the game, like game-changing teamfight ults that you can just steal and like, well, change the game with, I guess. Even small, let's say even like an Orianna ult or a Fizz ult or an Echo ult. Like, there's so many good ults. This champion does so well that I feel like even the bad matchups aren't really even that bad of a matchup. So that's just really nice. One small tip about Sylas: when you are laning with him or in the late game, your E is your aggro and your defensive ability. So once you E in, there's no way for you to really get back out unless your E or flash is back up again. So keep that in mind. Like, if you have no vision on anyone and you're trying to E aggressively forward and you get ganked in, then you're probably dead. So make sure that when you do E, you're not just putting yourself in a really bad spot, because you do kind of need to play Sylas pretty aggro, especially if you're playing with first strike and you want to get those procs and the maximum value from the first strike. Just keep an eye out on like the jungle tracking and figure out when you should E and when you should not E. Yeah, Sylas is pretty solid. You can even put him in the jungle as well if you're like an off-roll jungler, so you could learn it from both roles. I've seen some people even do well on Sylas support. It doesn't even sound that bad. I have a friend who's like GM who plays a lot of Sylas support, and he thinks it's pretty decent, into the right comp at least, because you just steal ult and you become like sort of like a team fight carry on your own by just stealing like a Renata ult, but also still having like decent burst yourself. So yeah, pretty solid carry. Also just really fun to play. On the third spot, I put Gragas, the fat man. The nice part about Gragas is that when you start the game, you're already really fat. Get it? Cause he's fat? Sorry. No, but really though, Gragas is a really good carry. I would also say he's kind of situationally good. He doesn't do that well into long range mages, but he does really well into, I think, the matchups that people are like kind of scared of, like Zed, Fizz, Yasuo, all the like melee divers. Gragas does pretty well into. Also, Gragas is pretty flexible. You can play him in the jungle, you can play him top, you can play him mid. You could also even play him support if you really wanted to, although I wouldn't really recommend it. But it is nice, if you do learn Gragas, it kind of opens him up for like multiple roles as well. Gragas has a decent win rate. He is a bit like mechanically demanding because there's a lot of combos you can do, but I feel like even if you don't know those combos, he's still pretty decent just because of how much damage he can do by just Qing and Eing and Ring. Like, you don't need to like R people into your Q and like flash ER, do 360, no scope them. Like, you can just throw your stuff at them and it will do a pretty decent amount of damage. The rune page on him is pretty flexible. You can go Comment for poke, you can go Dark Harvest for like AP, like snowballing. You could even go like a grasp build if you want to, or electrocute. Face rush is pretty decent on him as well. There's a lot of like build options. I would just recommend going Comment, this page right here, where it's just Comment, Mana Flow, Transcendence, Scorch for extra poke, and then just take like cookies for extra sustain. You can take Flash and Ignite, but I would personally recommend taking Flash and TP. TP is just really broken mid lane. I feel like you almost never want to take Ignite, but you could play Ignite if you like playing really aggro. The builds on Gragas are also pretty flexible. You can go Rod of Ages as the first item. You can also go like a full burst like Lich Bane into Deathcap first item. I do think playing him without a mana item feels kind of bad though. Build that I like the most is Rod of Ages into Cosmic Drive into like a Lich Bane. Lich Bane does feel really good on him. It helps you get towers. It's like the easiest way to do damage because your W is not really a skill shot. So if you're like scared of hitting your skill shots, Lich Bane is kind of nice. It gives you a bit of extra burst. Cosmic Drive is really good on Gragas. The ability haste, the extra move speed that you get at the end is just really good. But Gragas is a solid carry, but like I said, I would recommend picking him into stuff like Zed, Naafiri, Tristana, Fizz, Katarina, Ione, Akali, like all the champions that want to jump on you. Because it's really easy to punish them. Like let's say a Zed ults you, okay, you press E into R, okay, now he just lost half his health bar and he's just not on you anymore. And you can also, late game, you just one-shot a lot of squishies, so he's a pretty good like assassin. If you do want to learn Gragas, I would recommend learning the E flash combo, which isn't really that hard. It's just you E and mid-air, you flash onto someone. It helps you like close the gap a little bit easier. It also takes away a bit of the reaction time from the enemy. They might not expect it and you just one-shot them. The laning phase is pretty simple as well. You just can poke them with Qs pretty much. It's not that difficult. You just press Q on the enemy. One thing about Gragas though is like the longer you hold the Q, the more damage you do. You will see it at the tooltip on your bar. Like once it turns a different color, it will be at the max damage. So keep that in mind when you're pressing Q on the enemy. So yeah, like I said, Gragas just feels really good in all the like melee matchups. It also helps you peel for your teammates. Like let's say there's a Zed on the enemy team or a Talon or whatever and they all jump on your AD carry. Now you can just E them, now they're stunned, you Q and R them, they're probably dead. And with all these builds like Rod of Ages, Cosmic Drive, Hourglass, you get so much CDR that you're just perma using your abilities. It's really nice. You're perma knocking people up, you're poking. You can even just R randomly late game for like poke damage and everyone's just half health. Let's say you did 3-man R or 4-man R. Now most of them are probably like half health. That's already good enough to win the fight most of the time. Really nice carry, lots of burst, pretty mobile as well. Easy to shove lanes with, and just a hard counter to some champions like Zed. So I would highly recommend learning Gragas as well, specifically for those matchups that people don't really want to play into, like Zed and Yasuo. On the second spot I put Cadin. Cadin is a really good AP carry. The only reason I did not put him first is because I feel like he is kind of situationally good, and the reason why I say that is because he performs poorly into like AD matchups, mostly because his Q gives you a shield, but it's a magic damage shield, so it doesn't have as much value into like a Zed or a Tristana or a Naafiri, which is like the worst matchups. Like all the AD matchups are not that great, but he does really well into most AP matchups. And I think we've all been there where we play versus a Cadin and they hit like level 16 and it's like, holy shit, that guy is just killing everyone now. Like it's an insane scaler. Once you get to level 16, you almost, I wouldn't say guaranteed win the game, but your odds of losing the game with a like late game Cadin is pretty low. The rune page on Cadin is pretty flexible. You can go first strike if you think it's good. Like I wouldn't really take first strike into like a Hwei or a Syndra, like someone who has a lot of range and can just easily get it off you. But it's good into like, let's say like a Katarina or a Sylas, even though Sylas has like a Q. But yeah, it is a lot better there. You can also go Fleet Footwork if you need to sustain in like a heavy poke matchup. You can also go Electrocute, which is always just decent damage. You can even go Comment or Airy for like extra poke. But the most common rune page is just First Strike. I would say go either First Strike with like Resolve or Domination, or just go Fleet Footwork into like the rough poke matchups to survive laning phase more. The build on him is pretty straightforward. I think it's almost always a Rod of Ages. Rod of Ages just makes sense on him. The extra free level is like just really good because we all know how hard Cadin scales. Like the strength he gets when he hits level 16 is just insane, so Rod of Ages just really makes sense. Also, Cadin is pretty mana hungry, so the mana is pretty good on him too. After that, the build gets a little bit more flexible. You can opt into a tier early, get it stacking, and then build it into a Seraph's Embrace. But you can also skip it, which some people do, and just go full AP. I would just go for it though, it's a good item. and you can't go wrong with AP, mana, and ability haste on Cadin. It's all just really good stats on him. After that, you can opt into, some people go Malignant. I don't really like that item on Cadin. I'd rather just go more AP and an Hourglass for defense. But a Lich Bane is good on him. Rabadons is obviously good on him. A Void Staff is good if you need the penetration. You can go Banshees for a more defensive item. For summoners, you pretty much always take TP. TP also just makes sense on Cadin. You want to have as much uptime in the lane as possible because you want to get the XP and get to like the late game as fast as you can. Or not the late game, but you want to level up as fast as you can because of the like old power spikes. And with TP, you get like the most uptime. It also helps you get through the early game a bit easier. Let's say you take a couple of bad trades, you just TP back to lane. If you want to play the lane more aggro, you can just go with Flash Ignite, but I would recommend just taking TP. Flash is really good on Cadin. There's one trick you can do where you cast R and then you flash, and it's like an insta R flash. I don't know how to, I will show you a clip of it right here, but it's like it takes away a little bit of the reaction time for them to flash away from you pretty much. Cadin is just a really solid pick. He is super mobile, obviously, it's easy to rotate. The only thing I don't like about Cadin is that he's really weak early. He feels kind of bad before level 6, and sometimes when your team is just losing the game and the game like snowballs out of your control, you're kind of just hoping that your team doesn't int and you get to your power spikes, but once you do get to your power spikes, you almost win for free, so that's why he's really good. He just scales like crazy. He has really good matchups versus pretty much anything that has AP damage because of his Q magic shield. But again, one of the bigger things why I think he's so good is because it's just easy to rotate. Let's say your jungler's in trouble again. Okay, no worries, you press R twice, now your R is like stacked up. You're walking towards him, you have a fat damage R coming up, and you're probably there before your other mid laner is, because, I mean, no one can really chase a Cadin. It's almost impossible to keep up with that champion as long as he has the mana to press R. And late game with the combo that I talked about with the R flash, you will just one-shot an AD carry. So like get your R stacking, and then once you have it up to like the max stacks, but as long as you have mana for your combo, just R flash on AD carry, like WEQ, and they're just dead pretty much. I would say though, be careful like spending your mana on the like you can't just spam R completely like anytime. You have to watch your mana. You don't want to spam R on like the tank or the front line and then not have any mana to either R away from the fight when you're low or to kill the actual carries. But it is pretty easy to just like ignore them and to jump on the carries with how mobile you are. And like I said earlier, he's a great champion, but I would say he is situationally good, so if you can, maybe get like last pick in champ select or like second, let your top laner counter pick or whatever, but try to not pick him into like a Tristana or a Pantheon. Just like avoid the AD matchups pretty much, and you'll probably do really well in this champion. On the number 1 spot I put Naviri. I think Naviri is really good at the moment. She's pretty easy to play like mechanically. She also is played top lane, so you can have her as like a backup top in case you get autofill top, or maybe you queue for mid top, which is what I do. Then Naviri is like a perfect pick because you can learn her for both roles. But she is super easy to lane with. The whole game plan in lane is pretty much just queuing with first strike and engaging when they're low enough for you to kill, for you to all-in them. And speaking of first strike, it's pretty much the rune page you always take on her. Even if it's like a really bad lane, I think you still take first strike. I think first strike is just way too good on her. You could also go electrocute, but I think this is the page you normally just want to go for, and it's just like first strike. I like going boots over triple tonic, but some people do take that. I like boots, cookies, and Cosmic Insight, and then secondary tree I like just going Domination with Sudden Impact and Treasure Hunter. This is the most standard rune page, and a rune page you can run almost every single game pretty much. And your goal with the first strike is to get it off as much as possible in lane, so long range queuing with first strike, trying to hit your second Q after you hit the first one for even more damage. The most common build on her is just Eclipse and Profane Hydra. Some people skip Eclipse and they go Profane Hydra into just a lethality build. I kind of like just going Eclipse into Profane Hydra, but you have to include Profane Hydra in your build. This item is insane on her because you dash in, you Q, you E, and then you're pretty much out of damage, so the Profane Hydra really helps you like execute that final health bar of your enemies. So Profane Hydra is for sure a must. It feels really strong on her. If you want to go for a build that you can go like any game, I would just recommend going Profane Hydra, Eclipse. It doesn't really matter which one you go first. I like going Eclipse first, and then the rest is pretty much flexible. You can go other lethality items. You can go for Serpent's Fang if they have a lot of shields, You can go for opportunity, you can go for grudge if you need the armor penetration, or if you think the slow is really good in that specific game. Edge of Night is pretty decent if you need the spell shield. You can also opt into a Maw of Marmortius if you need the MR, or just like a Death Stand if you're playing into AD champs. So it's pretty flexible build-wise. I like running Ghost and TP on her. I don't think you really need the Flash, but you can go Flash. But you for sure take TP, and you for sure take either Flash or Ghost. I would not recommend taking anything else. The reason why I think Naafiri is so strong in solo queue is because when you play her mid, it is really easy for you to rotate to anything, really. You can press R, you can press Ghost, and you'll build pretty much anywhere in like 2 seconds. It's kind of the same reason why I think Twisted Fate is so strong. You can rotate to pretty much everything. Even if your bot lane is like losing or in a bad spot and they're being jumped, you can still just press the R and Ghost button to get there really fast and then join the fight. Probably way faster than your mid laner can rotate, while also just having a really strong laning phase on her own. She's pretty strong 1v1, especially when you get your Profane Hydra. I feel like a lot of games are decided by the 2v2, like the mid jungler 2v2, like fighting over Scuttle, fighting over Void Grubs, fighting over Dragon, rotating to the Dragon, stuff like that. And with Naafiri, that's just really easy to do. You can shove the lane pretty easily as well once you get Profane Hydra. With your Q, Profane Hydra, the dogs even help you last hit, which is really nice. But yeah, the amount of times where I've just walked, or like I see my jungler getting 1v1, and I just press the Ghost button into a can't miss point and click W for, for like a free kill. I lost count of how many times it happened, and it's so nice because it's just free kills. And like I said earlier with Twisted Fate, even late game, if there's someone split pushing or like out of position, it is really easy for Naafiri to punish that person, because you just press R, you press Ghost, and you just straight up run them down and kill them. There isn't really that much else to say about Naafiri, because she's a pretty straightforward champ where you just W the carries, you R and Ghost to like catch people who are in a bad position, and that's pretty much just your whole game plan. But I would really recommend playing her. Like, I promise you, try her out for like a couple games, try to like learn her kit a little bit, and then you'll actually notice like, wow, this is so easy to punish people, it's so easy to join like every fight. Because sometimes when I play something else, I'm like, wow, okay, my whole team's just dead. But on Naafiri, I'm pretty much always there. Getting like triples, getting quadras. Like, I did a bunch of solo queue games with her and I won like 80% on her, I would say. And the damage power spikes when you get to 2 items is just insane. You're just like one-shotting squishies pretty much. And there's very little counterplay because your W is just a long range point and click. And you have move speed, so they can't even really outrun you. So it's super good for how easy the champion is. That was pretty much it for this video. The video actually took a bit longer than I expected, but I hope it helps someone or it helps you get some free LP. Let me know how it goes if you try any of these champions out. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments which champions you think are the best in solo queue. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. Goodbye!